Now, I've been playing football games for as long as I can remember, from Match Day 2 on the ZX Spectrum all the way to EA Sports FC 26. I've seen it all: pixelated players, floppy disks, and full-blown realism. Today, I'm going to take a nostalgic look back at the football games that I grew up with. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Mel's Vlogs and welcome to another gaming episode here on my channel. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at football games that I've grew up playing all the way from 1983 when I was just 10 years old right up until the present day. International Soccer on the Commodore 64. It's also known as International Football. It's a sports video game written by Andrew Spencer for the Commodore 64 and published by Commodore International in 1983. Originally, it was only available on cartridge, and then Commodore re-released the game on cassette and disc in 1988. So as I said earlier, this game was released in 1983 and I was just 10 years old. And the reason why this game is so very special to me is because it's my first ever football gaming memory. And it was my uncle's Commodore 64. I didn't actually own this machine, but I used to spend an awful lot of time with my nan and with my uncle. And we used to play this game for hours and hours. And do you know what? When I look at this footage now, it's surprisingly how playable that this game was. You've got to think this is a very, very basic take on what football is, but it played a surprisingly good game of football for its day, and to be fair, it was even better than some of the football games that will come probably later on in this video. I wish I could remember what options that a game like this actually had. Obviously, you're not going to have leagues. You're not going to have cups like modern day football games do. This was probably just a case of play, and then it's two players just going head to head in this fantastic football game. It brings back some awesome memories for me. The Commodore 64 was a superb machine, and the Commodore 64 was so many people's favourite machine as well. If you used to game back in the 80s, Commodore 64 was a lot of people's favourite. So because international football, international soccer on the Commodore 64 holds such amazing memories for me, that's why it's definitely made it to my list. But right now, let's fast forward to 1994. Matchday is a football computer game that was published by Ocean Software in 1984 for the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. It's the first game in the Matchday series and was the creation of programmer John Rittman and Chris Clark. Versions were also later released for the Amstrad CPC and PCW and BBC Micro, Commodore 64 and MSX systems. Matchday on the ZX Spectrum was released in 1984. I was 11 years old, and indeed it was actually the first ever football game that I owned. If you remember the Commodore 64 game, it wasn't mine, it was my uncle's, but this one was mine, so I played this an awful long time. Now, watching back some of this footage, it's not really holding up very well. The Spectrum was infamous for its colour clash, and at times you couldn't even tell which player was yours because as two players from opposing sides would pass each other, they would colour clash and you couldn't work out who was who. But it's such fond memories, which was massively surpassed by its successor, which is coming up next in today's video, but I had to include this one. If I recall as well, you did have the option of customising all of the colours in this game. I think you could play on a white pitch. I think you could play on a black pitch as well. But also you really had to kind of be careful what colour players that you selected. I think one of the default colour combinations was one team would be in white, another team would be in yellow. And when that colour clash hit, it would all turn into a blobby mess. So you had to be careful. You can just see some of the colour clash there. you really did have to be careful of what colours that you selected for this, but it's such awesome memories. So I'm going to leave you now with a few seconds of scintillating gameplay here of Matchday before we zoom forward 4 years to 1987. So here it is. This is Matchday 2, football sports game that was part of the Matchday series. It was released for the Amstrad CPC, Amstrad PCW, ZX Spectrum, MSX and Commodore 64 platforms. It was created, as I said, in 1987 by John Rittman, graphics by Bernie Drummond, and music and sound was from Guy Stevens. Now, where do I even start with this? So this was, and still is, one of my all-time favourite football games. This was the first game where I created leagues myself. The game was so much more advanced than the 4-year-old Matchday which we saw in the previous clip. Matchday 2, it had exceptional gameplay. Graphics still don't look great, but if you look right at the top of the screen, you can see there for the first time ever in a football game it had a power bar. And not only that, you could actually do a back heel as well. If you look at that bar that's at the top of the screen, can you see like a -1 in white writing? You could enable it in the settings so the power bar went to the left as well, which would also trigger a back heel. Now, colour clash was very present in this one, as you can see. I think if I recall, I selected the white pitch and black and red players. That was often the best colour combination for me. But this game, it allowed you to create leagues, and I created many leagues. I wrote them down, I had it in folders. This is the first football game ever that I would say I took quite serious. I enjoy this so much, and this probably still is one of my most played football games of all time. I've got access to it again now in the fantastically recently released the Spectrum, and it comes as a pre-installed game on there, so I've been playing that. It's absolutely delightful. What a fantastic game that this was. So I'm just going to leave you now with just a few more seconds before we zoom forward 5 years to 1992. Okay, so here we have Striker on the Super Nintendo. This was part of the soccer video game series. It was first released by Rage Software, as I said, in 1992. The game was released for the Amiga CD32, the Atari ST, PC, Mega Drive, and of course, you're watching footage now on the Super Nintendo. I think as well, looking back at the footage now, it didn't actually play a great game of football. Yes, it was just pure arcade, pick up and play. And I think one of the reasons why it's made my list is it does hold a lot of fond memories. I used to play this with a friend of mine called Ian, and we played this for a very long time indeed. I mean, it was a great game to pick up and play, as all Super Nintendo games were. But, you know, in terms of the beautiful game that is football, it doesn't play the best game of football, but what a fantastic arcade game, and what fantastic memories this was on the Super Nintendo when I was just 19 years old. One thing that I loved about this fantastic game as well is that it did include indoor football. So as you can see on the screen now, is some delightful indoor football action with Striker. It played exactly the same type of game. It was just the pitch looked different, the surrounding looked a bit different, and of course the ball bounced off the walls as well. But it was a fantastic addition to an otherwise awesome game. So I'm just going to leave you now with just a few more seconds of this fantastic game on the Super Nintendo before we fast forward 1 year to 1995.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
Okay, so here we have FIFA International Soccer on the Mega Drive, and it was a 1993 association football game. It was developed by EA Canada's Extended Play Productions team, and it was published by the team that we all love to hate, EA Sports. The game was released for the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis console in December of 1993, and then it was ported to numerous other systems in 1994. And who can forget the awesome version that was released for the Panasonic 3DO. Now, I never owned a 3DO, but I remember watching some gameplay footage. And back in the day, there used to be a number of video game programs on terrestrial TV. And I remember one of the challenges that one of those shows had on, it was FIFA Soccer on the 3DO. And I was absolutely blown away, amazed just how good that this game was. Looking back at this footage, it's hard to kind of realise that this was the first ever game in the FIFA franchise, you know, FC. Now, it all started with this game right now. And it was also one of the games as well that featured some of the best sound effects in a video football game that you've ever heard. I mean, you can hear now the digitised crowd. Some of the crowd wasn't the best sounds, but, you know, for today, I mean, I was 20 years old in 1993 when this came out. It was just absolutely on next level. And looking back at some of this gameplay now, it actually plays a surprisingly good game of football. We all know that the early kind of iterations of FIFA have always been a little bit questionable, but this one being the first ever release in the FIFA franchise, it's very, very special indeed. So what a fantastic game that this was, and of course this had to make it to my list. One of the funniest memories that I've got of this game is when your player received a booking and you could literally run away from the referee. I used to have great fun running away from the ref because I didn't want him to show me that yellow card. Absolutely amazing stuff. It's so iconic, this game. It really is. So as always, guys, I'm just going to play out a few more seconds of footage from this fantastic game before we zoom forward 2 years to 1995.
International Superstar Soccer.
So here we have International Superstar Soccer on the Super Nintendo. It's a 1994 football video game, and it was developed and published by Konami for the Super Nintendo, and it's the first title in the ISS series of sports video games. It was initially released in Japan for the Super Famicom in 1994, and then also in North America and Europe for the SNES in 1995. The game sold over 500,000 copies since its first week of release. And one thing I do remember about playing this, as it was awesome, I played this game for a very, very long time indeed, but it was a very noisy game. I remember the sounds used to be just so loud. The Super Nintendo was, in my opinion, better than the Sega Mega Drive. Leave me some comments down below if you do disagree. But for some reason, this game, everything always seemed like it was turned up and amplified times 10. I remember just even on the intro bit, if I had my volume left on from the previous game, it was just so loud. It's a bit of a strange memory, that one, but it was an awesome football game, and it actually played a decent game of football as well. If I recall, I think stretchers would come onto the pitch if your player got injured, and there were several different versions of this game as well. And I will probably go as far as to say that this is the game that I played the most on my Super Nintendo. Awesome memories are unlocked with this one. So I'm just going to play out a few more seconds now before we fast forward 1 year to 1996, where we welcome the mighty Sony PlayStation.
Go, go,
So that was the fantastic intro for the amazing Olympic Soccer, which is a 1996 association football game, and it was developed by Silicon Dreams and published by US Gold. It was released for the PlayStation, the 3DO, Sega Saturn and MS-DOS compatible operating systems as well. What a game that this was.
To find the target, Halferman with the goal kick, and everyone's on their feet. Why not look at this again? It was terrific.
The memory that's unlocked with this one for me is that I used to play this with a friend of mine called Mark, and we literally played this game for hours and hours and hours, and we got quite competitive as well. I also remember this game having some really awesome commentary, but it was also very hilarious in parts. I think some of the tones that some of the commentators had during this, it really was very funny, and this game is probably the one that's made me smile the most since I've been making this video that you are watching. What a simply fantastic game that this was, and I play this so much, and it honestly played a decent game of football as well, but it was the sound, the commentary that made this one for me. But this was one of my most played football games on the Sony PlayStation. So we're going to finish off with just a few more seconds of this simply fantastic game before we stop in the same year, 1996, but this time we're going to Saturn.
Chomsky. Whack! And that could change the whole game. Oh, have another look at this. It was terrific.
This is Sega Worldwide Soccer 97. It's a football video game. It was made by Sega for the Saturn in 1996. It was followed by 3 more titles, Sega Worldwide Soccer 98 on the Saturn, and then 2 editions of Sega Worldwide Soccer 2000, and the second one of Worldwide Soccer 2000 Euro Edition, and both of those were for the fantastic Sega Dreamcast. One thing that I have noticed looking back at the making of this video with this particular game is that it really didn't play a very good game of football, did it? Also, one of the more infamous things as well for this game is the awful music that you can hear in the background. Yes, you could turn it off, but why Sega thought it was okay to have music like this as default is beyond me, but I suppose it kind of typifies what Sega was all about. But yeah, looking back at this, it really didn't play a very good game of football, but I had to include it in this video because it was on my beloved Sega Saturn. Just going to play out now with just a tiny bit more footage before we jump forward 1 year to 1997. International Superstar Soccer 64 was released in 1997 for the Nintendo 64, and all I'm going to say is what a game this was. This game actually turned me into a little bit of a recluse, a little bit of a hermit. It was just so good. I literally sat in my room for many days playing this. Absolute fantastic game. One of my favourite games on this entire list, purely for the type of game of football it played. It actually played a really good game. And one memory that is unlocked when I look at the footage of this, I think I only ever played as Switzerland. Don't know why. I probably did play as England as well, but I remember having many tournaments as Switzerland. No idea where that one came from, but what a simply awesome game that this was on the Nintendo 64. One of the things that I really liked about this game is that it could be brutally hard in places, but as a result of that, it was also extremely rewarding when you would hit in a thunderbolt from 25 yards and it goes into the back of the net with 2 minutes to go. It was probably one of the first games that really kind of gave me that sense of achievement when a goal went in. It really was and really is a very special game for me. So for the next game in this video, we are going to be staying in 1997, but this time we're going back to the PlayStation 1.
Well, the great thing about today is, of course, both sides have got a very attacking style of play. You know, they like to throw men forward. They probably feel their strength is going forward rather than defending, and I think that's what we're going to see both teams.
Well, even the linesman had to move out of the way on that one.
This is Actua Soccer 2, also known as Fox Sports Soccer 99 in North America, and it's a 1997 video game that was developed and published by Gremlin Interactive for both the PlayStation and the PC.
Good bounce just as he struck the ball.
There's a couple of things that really stand out, first of all, when you look at this game. The first one is the commentary. The commentary was simply superb, and it's better than most video football games now, in my opinion. But also, the second thing that really stands out is just the sheer gameplay. This played an exceptional game of football, and it still holds up today compared to some modern day football games. This one is still, in my opinion, right up there. It was also part of the Actua series, which was released on the Sony PlayStation. Actua Golf being one of the other fantastic games that I used to play. But Actua Soccer 2 was simply awesome. I didn't actually play Actua Soccer 3 an awful lot, if I recall. I'd probably moved on to a different machine by then. But Actua Soccer 2 for me is still one of my all-time favourite football games. So we're coming up towards the half-an-hour mark now, and I've still got 6 more games that I want to show you in this video. So let's fast forward 2 years as we head to 1999. Wow, they don't make football game intros quite like that anymore, do they? This is Uefa Striker, which was a 1999 release for the Sega Dreamcast. It was also known in North America as Striker Pro 2000, and it was developed by Rage Software, who were based in Birmingham, if I recall, and they were published by Infogrames in 1999 to the year 2000. It is the final game in the Striker series following the cancellation of its sequel, Uefa 2001, the following year. I'm going to be honest, right off the bat, this wasn't a very good football game. If I remember, it was brutally hard, very difficult to score. I did not enjoy playing this one at all. So you might wonder, why is it on this list? Well, I suppose it's because it was on the Sega Dreamcast, and for me, the Dreamcast is a very special machine. I also remember that I wasn't allowed to connect my Dreamcast to the internet. My dad wouldn't allow me to connect it because he was very unsure of what connecting to the internet was all about. So, the Sega Dreamcast does hold very fond memories for me. And that's why this football game is on the list. One of the highlights of this game for me was definitely the commentary again. I think it borrowed the commentator who first come on the scene on Channel 5. And it really did help to make a very good atmosphere, but unfortunately, because the gameplay, in my opinion, wasn't up to much, it was a bit of a wasted opportunity, unfortunately. It looks decent in this footage, which we're looking at now, but I just seem to remember that it was just so difficult, and I don't think I actually got very far in this. So I'm not going to show too much more footage of this one, but as this game is the last one in the 1990s, we are going to be heading now into the year 2000. Another epic intro there. This is Football 2. It's an association football video game that was developed by Team Soho and published by the Sony Computer Entertainment for the PlayStation. It was only ever released in Europe, and Clive Tildesley was replaced as the English language commentator by his fellow ITV colleague Peter Drury. And the memory unlock for me for this game is that at the time, I only used to work literally over the road from where I lived, and I used to rush home in my lunch breaks, and I used to have a game or two. It's just absolutely fantastic. Now, looking back at the footage now, it looks a bit rough. I don't think it's aged very well. And again, the commentary was absolutely fantastic, but the gameplay was also very good, but it certainly wasn't a looker, that's for sure.
France to kick off. The second half commences. It's a goal! The opportunity was there and he took it. Let's look again.
Yes, this game has not aged well at all. I think we're going to move swiftly on. This time we're going to fast forward 3 years as we head to 2003. I'm gutted that I've not been able to include the original audio on this intro for the next game I'm going to be showing you. This is Club Football on the Xbox. Fantastic intro once again. Due to copyright, I've not been able to put the original audio, so I'm just going to have to put some generic music on. So sit back for the next 60 seconds or so and let's enjoy this intro to Club Football. Club football Aston Villa was first released on October the 10th, 2003. It was updated again in 2005 and that released in October of 2004. The original game was published by Codemasters, with the 2005 version focusing on Aston Villa with a brand new engine and features. The unique selling point for this series is that they released only just a few variants of the game, and it was mainly focused on European giants of football in that particular time anyway, so such as Ajax, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Villa. They all had their very own versions of club football.
He wins the ball well.
So if your football team wasn't included in this series, then you was bang out of luck with playing this game, unless you bought one of the other clubs, of course. But what was simply fantastic about this, I mean, we're talking and we're looking at the Aston Villa version now, it was only focused, it was all focused on Aston Villa. Villa Park was in there, it was fully licensed, all the players were there, and it was absolutely fantastic. All the crowd chants were there, commentary again was very good. I don't honestly remember the actual game an awful lot, if I'm being honest. Again, it probably got surpassed pretty quickly by something else, but for its time, this was simply fantastic, and it was fantastic for me being a long live Villa fan. It was brilliant to be able to play as Aston Villa at Villa Park with all of the crowd chants and commentary. And as you can see on screen right now, the 2005 iteration of club football included more teams as well. So the likes of Birmingham City, Tottenham, Rangers, PSG, Marseille, Celtic, they were all included in club football. And it was a fantastic time to be a football fan of one of those teams in particular. I think my biggest regret for this game is that I just simply don't remember it. I mean, looking at this footage now, it looks absolutely fantastic in my opinion. Maybe I need to try and dust off an Xbox and play club football Aston Villa. But right now, as Darius Vassell bangs that one in for Villa, we're going to fast forward 1 year to 2004, where it's the dawn of the mighty PC. So the mighty Pro Evolution Soccer has entered the pitch. Pro Evolution Soccer 3 is a football simulation game, and it was developed and produced by Konami as part of the Pro Evolution Soccer series. It was initially released for the PlayStation 2, but it was also the first in the series that it was released on PC, and that's the version that I played. I remember playing Pro Evo back in the day on my PC, and because it was on Windows PC, it was probably the best looking football game that I'd ever played in my life. I remember as well, there was I don't think it was mods as such, but I would have a brand new kit every single season. You know, this is when Pro Evolution Soccer was at its best, and of course it was FIFA's main rival. I actually stopped playing FIFA after the one that I showed you earlier on in the video on the Mega Drive, because it was all about Pro Evolution Soccer for me. I was a Pro Evo player for years, and I played it on the PC mostly purely because it was just easier to kind of change player names, team names and so on like that, and it was easier to change your kit as well. So fond memories. I used to sit at my my tiny computer's PC and I would play on this for a very long time. This probably is the football game that I've played the most up until modern day football games, at least. You know, all the games that we've seen so far, no game or no series in Pro Evolution was played as much as what this one is. I also remember playing on pitches. It was a little bit infamous for having pitches that made it almost unplayable to play on at times. Again, the beauty of PC, I was able to change that quickly, but there was one pitch and it had like squares all over it, like a checkerboard, and there was one with lines, and it used to make your eyes hurt. You'd get a headache from it, but obviously on PC you could easily change the pitches, which is what I used to do. So it was the first game that kind of got me into modding, so to speak. But yeah, fond memories of Pro Evolution. So with just 2 games to go in this video, we're going to fast forward now to 2005, where a certain Xbox 360 had a launch title. FIFA 06 Road to the World Cup was a 2005 launch title for the brand new Xbox 360. It was developed by EA Sports, and the game is officially licensed product for the 2006 FIFA World Cup finals that were held in Germany. Now, FIFA 06 Road to the World Cup, it was infamous for a couple of reasons. The first one being it was just completely starved of content. The game clearly, in my opinion, was rushed for launch of the 2005 Xbox 360, and as the title suggests, it was only the road to the World Cup, so it didn't include the World Cup itself. That would come in a later game. So in this particular version of the game, it only had the qualifying groups, and that was literally it. That was the only content it had. It was groundbreaking for the time in terms of commentary. You know, FIFA commentary has always been fantastic. The graphics, to a certain extent, were fantastic. The atmosphere that, you know, the game would produce was absolutely fantastic. Now, the second thing that, in my opinion, that it was infamous for was the graphics. Now, of course, when you first look at it, you will go, oh my word, that looks absolutely incredible, and it did. The gameplay wasn't the best in this particular one. FIFA series in the early years did struggle with gameplay, you know, and as I talked about in a previous clip, Pro Evolution Soccer was vastly the superior game. But where this game was a little bit odd was the graphics. Now, if you look on the graphics on screen right now, you can see how waxy that the players look, and that was an early problem that the 360 had, or to say that EA had. I think NBA Live had a problem as well, where the players looked like they were made out of wax. Upon reflection, looking back at FIFA 06 Road to the World Cup on the Xbox 360, it really is a poor entry in the franchise of FIFA and FC. So as this video draws to an end now, it's only right that we take a very quick look at the most recent football game on the market, FC 26. So as we take a quick look at FC 26, I've been playing this since launch. I'm playing career mode and I'm having the time of my life, and I'm going to put it out there, for me personally, it's the best FIFA game to date.
And he's in now. Oh yes, it's a ripper. There was no margin for error with that. It's a quite wonderful hit.
So as this video draws to a close, I hope you've enjoyed taking a look back at football games spanning over 40 years, all the way back from when I was 10 years old. playing international soccer on the Commodore 64, right up to the present day, FC26. I've really enjoyed this one. It's taken me forever to get this one edited. So if you have enjoyed this one, guys, please give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Subscribing is absolutely free and it really does help out my channel more than you ever know. And drop me some comments as well. Let me know what football games that you remember playing. Do you remember any of what I've shown here? And if I've missed anything out, then let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm going to see you all very soon in the next one.